Okay, so McDonald's found liable for a girl's burn from some chicken nuggets, and a hotel guest claims the hotel manager woke him up in a truly weird way.
Oh, it's weird, all right. John Dapkovich has more with Rio and Caraway in the sidebar this morning.
Yeah, weird doesn't begin to describe it, guys. We'll get to that one in a bit. Good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for being with us.
Morning.
They mentioned the McDonald's thing. I'm old enough to remember the hot coffee lawsuit years ago when McDonald's was sued for a guy spilled hot coffee and burned himself. This is kind of the same thing, but new. Lay out what the case is and why the judge arrived at the decision.
Yes, anybody who's familiar with the hot coffee case, this is incredibly reminiscent. Mom goes through the drive-through, orders 2 Happy Meals for her kids, hands them back to her kids in the back seat, doesn't think anything more of it. Usual thing all of us would do. All of a sudden here's her unfortunately autistic daughter, who's not very verbal to start with, screaming uncontrollably. Doesn't realize why she's screaming, finally realizes something's unusual, pulls over, goes to check. A chicken nugget has fallen out into her lap and created second-degree burns on her.
Oh, wow.
So this reminiscent entirely of the old hot coffee case, which is, and very few people understood this, it wasn't the idea that coffee shouldn't be hot, it wasn't the idea that chicken nuggets shouldn't be well cooked and safe. It's the idea that there is a threshold where it's simply too much that humans cannot safely handle it.
Yeah.
So what the lawsuit became about is, did the local franchise and therefore the national company act negligently, and did they fail to give proper instruction and warning down the ladder? Did McDonald's USA fail to give proper instruction down to the local franchise about how these had to be handled, what temperature they should be cooked at, what temperature they should be at when they hand them to someone? And did the franchise therefore fail to go ahead and properly act in making sure that was delivered to the customer that way?
So the judge decides that McDonald's is liable.
The jury.
Jury,
Yes.
excuse me, the jury. What do we think the settlement, or not, but I guess the judgment is going to be?
This is the hard part. You're talking about second-degree burns. There's going to be medical care, past, sometimes into the future. You could have scarring. That could be a future damage that they have to worry about, depending where it is exactly on the child, how this goes down, in the future. Is this going to be a scar that the child is afraid to show off in a swimsuit down in the line?
Sure.
These are things that they have to think about, and everything the jury will have to consider, along with the general idea of pain and suffering. So this will be, in my estimation, I would say it's a more substantial thing they have to look at.
Interesting. Okay, they alluded to this story. A hotel guest claims that they were woken up in the middle of the night by the hotel manager licking their toes.
I'm sorry, what now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we certainly know there is a social contract broken here. What is the legal, surrounding
So,
this?
see, there's some legal things that are happening here, obviously, other than just the fact that it's just an odd
Bizarre,
story.
yeah.
Normally, your biggest fear is you dangle your foot off the bed and the monster underneath the bed's going to eat it. This is worse.
Weirdly similar.
Yeah, this is really similar. So you have with all things, you have two sides of it. You have criminal and you have civil. The criminal is pretty simple here. You have burglary, which we actually talked about. Because you're renting that hotel room for the night, it's kind of like your house. And so when somebody breaks the plane, goes through the door, and then they commit a crime therein, that's burglary. You also have sexual battery, and you also have assault in this case. All things that I'm sure the DA is going to charge. On the civil side, you have the same things. You have the battery, which would be an intentional tort, which is like negligence of a sort, but it's intentional. But you also might have a claim against the hotel if you can show that this is something that has happened before, or that they knew or reasonably should have known was going to occur. Basically, that this particular manager was kind of acting in a odd way, saying offhand things, if there was anything that similarly had happened in the past or something like that.
That is bizarre. There was so much more we could do on that, but we got to keep moving on.
Yes,
Peloton recalling more than 2 million of their bikes. Do Peloton owners have any kind of legal standing here to get compensation?
Well, depending on what's occurring, absolutely. The reason the recall exists is because the bike seat post is failing. When that fails, people are crashing to the ground. There's been fractured wrists, other injuries that have occurred as a result of that fall. Obviously, anyone injured would absolutely have a claim here. There's obviously a manufacturing default or defect. There's no way that a bike post should reasonably fail in the normal use and operation and go ahead and cause such a thing. So they would absolutely have an injury claim. As to the regular just getting it replaced, they're doing a full recall on that. They've been told not to use it if they're in those batches, and they're willing to do a complete replacement of the part. So would advise to anyone who has one of these, look up, see if you're within the recall group, because it is a safety feature.
Very good. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate it. That was one of the more bizarre offerings you've had. It was really good stuff. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Thank you.
Guys?
So we're not going to talk about the fact we have an injured Del Rio?
Oh. So is somebody getting sued over this?
No claim
Just
other than
asking.
my own foolishness.
Okay, all right.
You can't sue yourself. All right, gentlemen, thank you.
Want to make sure
Thank
you're
you.
okay. All right.
Thank you, fellas.